Hi everyone and welcome to Pro Quality Community. We are getting back from summer holidays and excited to guide you through first session titled Playwright or Selenium, the modern approach to UI test automation. My name is Vyacheslav and I will be a host of today's session where we will dive deeper into the test automation frameworks and gain interesting insights that will be useful for you when you start a new project from scratch or consider moving to another test automation framework. And I'm thrilled to introduce our today's speaker, Angela Olszewska, Senior Software Test Automation Engineer at EPAM. Angela was a speaker of few conferences, TestCon, Selenium, Data Conference, and Crack QA. She studied computer science and she's engineer by profession. She was also a database administrator in the past. And that's why she loves to work with SQL and databases. At the moment, her focus is UI automation and UI tests. And one more interesting fact that Angela is also a volunteer and help animals. Hi, Angela, and nice to meet you here in Pro Quality Community.
Hello, nice to meet you too.
I prepared some, let's say, warm-up question for you. Very popular, probably. In this changing reality caused by AI, what's your own expectation about the future of test automation and what can we anticipate?
Good question. Well, I think that AI will make test automation smarter, faster, and more adaptive. We can expect self-healing tests, intelligent test generation, and for sure, reduced manual effort. So it will lead to higher quality software with less human intervention.
Mm-hmm. And I think we can expect some increase in productivity of us as QAs in this field. Okay, thank you for the answer. And before we move to the main part of our event, dear audience, please feel free to ask any questions related to our talk today in our YouTube chat, and we will address them in the end of the session to our speaker. And let's start without any further ado. Angela, the stage is yours.
Thank you very much. So let's start. Okay. So hello again. My name is Angela Olszewska and I'm a senior software test automation engineer. I love automating things, especially in Python, my favorite programming language. In my career, I focused on UI test automation, and as someone with a curious explorer's mindset, I've been searching for the best test automation framework. Along this journey, I've learned a lot, and today I will share the results with you. This is our agenda for today. The goal of this presentation is to highlight the key differences between Selenium and Playwright and to introduce you to the Playwright framework. So let's start. If you have ever worked with UI test automation, you have probably realized that the UI test automation tools market is as crowded as a stadium during a Taylor Swift concert. Selenium and Cypress have been the most commonly discussed automation tools in the past, but recently, Playwright has become an increasingly popular option in this comparison, as seen in the ranking. The following table ranks repositories using three metrics: stars, pull requests, and issues. The table compares the last 28 days of data and indicates whether repositories are moving up or down the rankings. Oh, sorry, I think something is wrong with my presentation. Okay, we are back. So going back to the screenshot. The screenshot was taken on September 29th. Playwright already has more stars than Selenium or Cypress. In this moment, I can, In this moment, I can compare Selenium to Shakira's Instagram. While they have been around longer on the stage, Playwright is comparable to Ariana Grande in the testing world. I hope neither Shakira nor Ariana Grande would be offended by this comparison to testing frameworks. However, I believe that none of them will watch my presentation. Fingers crossed. All right, let's be serious for a while. You might be wondering, what is Playwright? Well, I got curious about the reasons behind Playwright's increasing popularity and decided to dig deeper. At first glance, it seemed like just another free open source tool supported by Microsoft, nothing particularly noteworthy. I noticed that Playwright supports all modern rendering engines, including Chromium, WebKit, and Firefox. It works on Windows, Linux, and macOS, locally or on CI, headless or headed. We can use Playwright with many languages, such as TypeScript, JavaScript, Python, .NET, or Java. We can't test mobile apps using Playwright, but you can perform native mobile emulation of Google Chrome for Android and mobile Safari. The same rendering engine works on our desktops and in the cloud. So, did anything impress you? I suppose not, and that's fine. I wasn't impressed either. But let's delve deeper. What caught my attention the most was Playwright architecture. Let's compare it with Selenium, as it's still the most popular framework in use. The architecture of Selenium is based on a client-server model where the Selenium client communicates with the Selenium server to automate web browser interactions. The Selenium server then interacts with the browser using the browser's own automation engine, such as Chrome driver. On the other hand, the architecture of Playwright is based on a single library that includes both the browser automation engine and the API for controlling it. Playwright is just designed to be more efficient and faster than Selenium, and it offers more granular control over browser behavior. To verify if any difference exists, I wrote a simple test suite in both Playwright and Selenium. In this example, I tested basic authorization for one of the web applications. There are 4 test cases: successful login, login failure, incorrect username, login failure, incorrect password, and login and return to main page. Let's take a look how tests are written. One crucial thing to note is that Playwright offers a PyTest plugin for writing end-to-end tests. This means you can still use PyTest in your projects. The code in Playwright is quite similar to what you would write in Selenium. However, the difference is more noticeable in the features. The main difference you can see here is that Playwright works with a page object, while Selenium works with a driver. In Selenium, the starting point is the web driver, an object that controls the entire connection with the browser. The driver is responsible for opening and closing the browser, navigating to websites, finding elements, and performing actions. In Playwright, however, the central object used in test is the page. A browser represents a browser instance, for example, Chromium or Firefox. A browser context is similar to user profile. It it provides a separate, isolated session. A page represents a single tab within a given context. The page is responsible for opening websites and interacting with elements. So, to sum it up, in Selenium, the driver represents the entire browser. If you want a new session, you need to create a new driver. In Playwright, you can have one browser instance, multiple contexts within it, and multiple pages within each context. This allows for fast and isolated testing, for example, simulating two different users logging in at the same time. Okay, now when you see some differences in the code, let's start the test suite. On the left, you can see Playwright. On the right, you can see Selenium. Okay, Playwright is done. Selenium also is done. Playwright's tests were a bit faster. They conducted in more than 12 seconds, while Selenium took more than 14 seconds to finish. However, this is only a single test run. Let's see if anything changed when we start test suite 10 times. Is it running? Yeah, it's running. Okay, it's done. Playwright was faster again, taking more than 180 seconds, while Selenium took more than 131 seconds. So the gap isn't huge, but noticeable. As tests become larger or more complex, Playwright's advantage will become more pronounced. Furthermore, I discovered interesting experiment on the Checkly website in which Playwright speed was compared to other frameworks, including Cypress and Puppeteer. This experiment was conducted 4 years ago in 2021. They collected data from 1,000 successful sequential executions of the same script. All scenarios were executed without any video recording or screenshot capture. The first test scenario was performed on a simple, practically static website with minimal data fetched from the backend. This scenario involves a brief login procedure with expected total execution time of just a few seconds. It is run to distinctly showcase potential variances in startup speed among the tools. And the aggregate results are as follows. You can see it in the presentation in the table. This kind of very short scenario is where the difference in startup time will be felt the most. On average, Cypress is close to 3 times slower than WebDriver I/O and more than 4 times slower than Puppeteer, the fastest tool in this comparison. The second scenario was executed on complex web application with lots of data movement, animations, third-party integrations, and all the typical elements you find in real web application. The aggregate results are as follows. Again, you can see it in the table. And as we can see, the separation between Cypress and the rest of the tools remains. Here, Cypress is almost 2 times slower than Playwright. In conclusion, all the experiments showed the following findings. First of all, Cypress exhibits a longer startup time compared to the other tools listed so far. Puppeteer's advantage over Playwright in short tests does not translate to longer executions, so Playwright ranks highest for real-world scenarios. What's more, in real-world scenarios, Playwright showed the highest consistency in execution time, closely followed by Cypress. So now, Playwright currently seems like the obvious choice for synthetic monitoring of live web applications. What's more, tests in Playwright start by default in headless mode and using Chrome. Playwright offers much more, including some powerful features that are not available in Selenium. Playwright introduces a built-in feature for handling waits during web automation, streamlining the process compared to Selenium. Instead of writing lengthy wait until expressions like the first one you can see on the slide, you can simplify the code like the second line in the slide. It's much simpler, isn't it? Although it appears straightforward, there's a lot going on behind the scenes. Playwright automatically performs a series of checks to confirm whether the selected element can perform the selected action. The command is executed only after all checks have passed. If the checks fail to pass within a specific time, Playwright returns timeout error. So, for example, for the click command, the following checks will be performed. Element is attached to the DOM, element is visible, element is stable, element receives events, and element is enabled. There is also no need to deal with the race conditions when performing the checks. Playwright assertions are designed in a way that they describe the expectations that need to be eventually met. You can find a table in Playwright's documentation that lists all the actions and their corresponding checks. In my opinion, this feature is super useful as it shortens the code, makes it easier to understand, and enhances its stability. There's also a smaller risk that we receive an error. If you take a look at the wait statement in Selenium again, you will notice that it only verifies that the element's visibility. However, even if the element is visible, it might still be disabled, leading to potential errors when attempting a click action. Another fantastic feature is CodeGen. With Playwright's CodeGen, you can automatically generate tests as you interact with your website in the browser. It literally writes code for you, so it's a perfect feature for the lazy coders in all of us. It's also a great way to quickly get started with testing, especially for those new to testing or in a hurry to produce results. Playwright's CodeGen is smart enough to analyze your page and figure out the best locator to use for each element, prioritizing role, text, and test ID locators. In cases where multiple elements match the locator, it will improve the locator to make it more resilient, ensuring that each element is uniquely identified. Let's see it in the video. To use this feature, simply run the CodeGen command, then two windows appear. One is the browser window where you can interact with the website, and the other is the Playwright Inspector window where you can record your tests and copy them into your editor. You see, when I click on the web application, every action is registered on the right. And ta-da, our test is ready. Let's go back. Additionally, Playwright has a helpful tool called Trace Viewer that I have found really useful many times. Sometimes when we run tests in headless mode, things go wrong. But when we use the headed mode, everything seems to work fine and the tests give us the results we expect. Trying to figure out what's going on in these situations can feel like trying to teach a cat to bark. It's time-consuming and not very productive. Unlike Playwright, Selenium doesn't hand us any secret detective tools for headless mode mysteries, so we can just cross our fingers and take screenshots. What solution does Playwright offer? Playwright Trace Viewer is a tool that lets you explore recorded Playwright traces of your tests, meaning you can go back and forward through each action of your test and visually see what was happening during each action. Let's see it on the video. You can start tracing whenever you want, and you can stop it when needed. Okay, this is done. Now we can open the trace. And here we can see what was happening. The test was running in headless mode. So yeah. Here we have many screenshots that Playwright took. On the left, we have actions that took place in the test. Here we have detailed logs. We can see locator, expressions, expected text, timeout. Here's the source of our test. There's one more amazing thing. Yeah, network. Here you can even check the status code of the requests. This is my favorite tool for debugging. But okay, I need to say that every framework has its limitations. And while there's no such thing as a perfect framework, some come pretty close. So what are the weaknesses of Playwright and where does Selenium shine? Right now, Selenium has much larger community compared to Playwright. If you run into an issue with Selenium, there's a good chance that someone else has faced the same problem and you can find a solution pretty quickly. On the flip side, Playwright is a newer, still growing framework. Its community is smaller, but very supportive. When I had issue with Playwright, I received help on the same day. That's definitely faster than waiting 22 years for a bug to be fixed in Firefox. Another challenge we face is that Selenium has been the go-to choice for developing testing projects in many companies. Moving these projects to different framework would be a time-consuming endeavor, but it's certainly doable. What might be interesting for API testers is that we can run API tests directly in Playwright, whereas in Selenium, this isn't possible without installing and using additional libraries. Over time, Playwright has been offering more and more features. In my latest research, I found out that Playwright can now connect to Selenium GitHub, running Selenium 4 to launch Google Chrome or Microsoft Edge instead of running the browser locally. Another new feature worth mentioning is Playwright Model Context Protocol. It allows AI agents to control the browser directly through Playwright, not by looking at screenshots or pixels, but by using structured data directly from the page. But let's get back to the point. About 2 years ago, I started migrating tests from Selenium to Playwright, and I'm happy to say that the transition went really well. A key factor in this success has been having a well-thought-out plan and taking it one step at a time. Making a decision like this involves numerous actions and discussions with the QA team because it affects not only the framework but also the programming language we use. Choosing the right programming language for Playwright was an important decision. Python integrates seamlessly with Playwright, and my previous QA team had strong expertise in Python. However, TypeScript was also considered as an option. It's important to note that Playwright itself is built using TypeScript, and the majority of its resources, like examples and courses, are primarily available in TypeScript. Updates and bug fixes are initially done in TypeScript before other languages. Nevertheless, we opted for Python because it made more sense for us. It was easier to change just the testing framework and stick with a familiar language rather than both the framework and the language, especially when TypeScript was unfamiliar to us. In conclusion, Playwright shows great promise and has a strong potential to become the leading framework in the future. However, it might not always be the perfect fit since each testing project is unique. We have various options, not just Playwright and Selenium. Choices like Cypress, Puppeteer, and more exist. Nonetheless, I strongly recommend considering Playwright when selecting a framework for your project. Thank you very much.
Angela, thank you so much for the interesting insights and sharing interesting comparison between Playwright and Selenium and other tools. Very interesting. Before we move to the Q&A part, guys, please, can we share maybe the screen with QR code? So, dear audience, please scan the QR code that you will see right now on the screen. And rate our event. That's very important for us. And also following this link, you can give a badge to our speaker if you enjoyed our talk. So, and now let's move to the Q&A part. And we have got a few questions from the community platform, and we will ask right now our dear speaker. The first question is, hello, could you please explain how to use a debug mode in Playwright? I have heard that it's real bottleneck. I think that this question partially was covered on previous slides, but let's maybe sum up one more time.
Yes, so you could see in the slide how to start debug mode. It's amazing tool in my opinion, because when things go wrong in Selenium, I need to use breakpoints and do some magic to identify what's going wrong and why. In Playwright, that's so simple and nice, because you just switch on the tracing and suddenly you can see what was happening step by step, and you have thousands of screenshots. So you can verify very easily what's going wrong and how to fix that. So yeah, this is definitely why I like this feature in Playwright.
Okay, so we have broken this myth, I believe, and let's move to the next question. Can Playwright or Selenium work via MCP server in an AI assistant to auto-generate user guide by capturing screenshots with annotations, for example, arrows, pins, and etc., from text input or reference screenshots?
Playwright uses MCP, and as far as I know, it's really great feature and it works great. However, I didn't use it in practice. You can reach me after the event, and I can share with you the course that is free that I found before the presentation, where the MCP is explained step by step how to use that in practice.
Okay, thank you so much. We will probably share the link in our community platform. Um, uh, Next question is: did you ever use Playwright and Selenium with Java, and can compare with them here, especially in conjunctions with build tools like Maven, Gradle?
I didn't. I'm Python specialist and I don't have expertise with Java.
Okay, cool. Let's move to the next one. Does the lecture have any experience using Playwright with Cucumber? Are there any problems in using these two tools together?
Oh, to be honest, I have no idea. I didn't try that. Playwright has really clear structure and it's really easy to use. So to be honest, I'm not sure if we need Cucumber for this framework. But yeah, if you are interested in Cucumber anyway, I think that it's needed to do additionally research. However, as far as I know, Cucumber works much better with, for example, robot frameworks. It's typically it's more popular, yeah, pair.
Okay, thank you. Guys, dear listeners, if you listen to us, so feel free to post your comments related to this question. What's your experience? Maybe some of you had experience with integrating Playwright and Cucumber, so feel free to post your questions. And let's move to the next one. How much time you needed to migrate one test from Selenium to Playwright? How many tests have been migrated and how overall runtime decreased?
Mhm. I migrated 30 tests from Selenium to Playwright. The most time I spent for the first test case because I needed to recreate all testing framework, and with next test cases it was easier, and I spent less time for next test cases. Tests took I think that I needed maybe around 1 hour or 2 hours to migrate one end-to-end test from Selenium to Playwright. I was still learning the new framework, so it was quite new to me. So I think now it would be much faster. Next test took maybe half hour to move from Playwright to Selenium. So to sum it up, it was about 3 working days to migrate all the test suite.
Hmm. Okay, thank you. And I think that using AI power these days, so you can significantly decrease the time, and if it's of course allowed to use on your project or in your company. So,
Yeah,
uh,
so let me add something. For sure, now with AI, it would be much faster. 2 years ago, I couldn't use AI in my previous work, so it was just forbidden. So everything was manual work. However, the tests were really complex because
mm,
it that was end-to-end scenarios, and I think that 3 days is really great result to move 30 complex tests from one framework to another. And thanks to that, we achieved definitely better results in test run. So this work was worth these results.
mm. Yeah, we can sum up that AI is a helpful tool, but it's not a silver bullet for all your pains and all your tasks. Okay, cool. We have one more question. Does Playwright with TypeScript have more features than Playwright with Java, for example? I mean, if I choose to use Java, will I need to write more complex implementations than TypeScript?
I see that we have much more Java specialists here than
Yeah, I
Python
think so.
specialists. However, in this question, I can compare Java to Python. And as I said in the presentation, yes, Playwright with TypeScript have more features than Playwright with other languages because Playwright is created in TypeScript. It's created primarily for TypeScript. and this is the main language for this framework. However, it doesn't mean that you need to write more complex implementation. It means that some features that are available in TypeScript are not available in your language. These features doesn't make, I don't know, maybe some features make code shorter, etc. But usually this is not something what's very needed. That's something that can make our testing life maybe more simpler, more faster. But you can still use Playwright with Java, and in the end, your code will be more effective than in other frameworks.
Thank you. Hope we have answered this question. Hi, in Python, Playwright provides sync and async Playwright instances. Which one should be used in the test scripting?
Oh, as you wish. Usually I use sync instances. However, sometimes ago I created new project when I use asynchronous code, but it depends on the code structure. And now I just needed to use asynchronous code because with synchronous programming, the code was running really, really, really long. So I needed to switch. So I think that we can sum it up, and it just depends on the given project. There's no one rule that you need to code always in asynchronous or synchronous rule. You need to think what will be better for a given project.
Okay, thank you. We have one more question. So we have a large number of questions. That's very good. So looks like the topic is very, very interesting for our audience. What's the best way for a team to decide whether they should stick with Selenium, switch to Playwright, or use both in combination for different purposes? That's an interesting question.
Well, I think that we need a new presentation to answer this question fully. Oh wow, there's so many factors. There's the question: can we even move to Playwright? How many tests in Selenium you already have? How many tests you need to move to Playwright? How much time you need to move one test case? How much people are included in the testing projects, and how many people can handle this and move tests? Do you have any Playwright specialists, or this is a new framework for everyone? Does every test case needs to be moved, or not really? Maybe in general you can reduce some test cases because some of them are outdated. There's so many questions. You need to analyze your current project. You need to set goals, and you need to talk with your team and check how many time and how many people can be engaged in this project.
Yeah, so hope we answer this question. And one more question. Is Playwright a good tool for writing API tests?
Yeah, it's amazing. You can keep both UI and API tests in one framework. You can create only API tests in Playwright. That's also cool.
Yeah. Okay. Another question. Following up to the Cucumber question, I wanted to ask if Playwright is compatible with BDD framework.
It's better to check it in the Playwright documentation because I didn't need that in my Playwright career, so I have never verified that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it can be easily found in the internet. Okay, we have one more question from YouTube channel. Did you migrate from Selenium to Playwright using AI tools like Copilot? I think we have discussed it.
Yeah, it was already discussed, but I can repeat. When I was migrating tests 2 years ago, first of all, I'm not sure if Playwright had any AI copilot 2 years ago. However, in my previous company, it was forbidden. to use AI tools, so it was done manually. Now I know that Playwright has some AI tools. It has, for example, MCP. So, but I didn't check that, so I don't know how useful this is in the practice. But some days ago, I found a nice course that is free about Playwright MCP. So after our session, I can share the link to these free materials about that.
Okay, thank you. So looks like that's all questions finally, and we have few 3 minutes left. Angela, again, thank you so much for joining us today, sharing interesting insights about the benefits of Playwright framework. I think that our audience will take into account all these interesting points you covered. And I realized personally that if I started one day automation, Playwright will be in my top tool that the project can use because of some benefits you already mentioned. We will add all the presentation deck and our recording to our VIA community page. And we will also send a feedback form within an hour to all our participants. So, dear audience, please feel free to add your comments and thoughts in the feedback form. This important information will help us to prepare our future events for you in a better way. And again, you can scan the QR code, send a badge to our dear speaker. We have covered a lot of interesting questions today. And I would like to invite you to our next talk the next week, where we will talk about testing uncertainty and how to build stable shared libraries. And that's all for today. Again, Angela, thank you
Thank you.
for
Bye
coming
bye.
to us. And guys, stay tuned. Join ProQuality community in our YouTube channel, and may your test always be flawless. Have a good the rest of the day and see you. Bye.